That says it's 6:58. That says it's 6:58. Do we want to start 2 minutes early? Do what? Is it 1 minute early? Okay. Okay, we're going to start 1 minute early according to Lee, so it's 18:59 or thereabouts. Okay, we're going to start. Thank you, Virgil. That's why he has to remind me of all this stuff. We're going to start 1 minute early according to Lee. It's 18:59. So a couple of things. First of all, I want to do member introductions, but I want to start with everybody passing around the sign-in sheet. Please print your name mostly legibly and your call sign really legibly, if you would, please. Member introductions for starters. My name is John. My call is N7NWL. I am the president of CADXA for last year and this year. So if something goes wrong, I get yelled at. If something goes right, then I get to share the blessings with everybody else. And I'm going to pass the mic over to Virgil.
All right, I'm Virgil, K7VZ.
Steve, K7 Sugar Papa.
Evan, KK7MGL.
Walt, NJ8G.
Norm, N9AV.
Scotty, WA2DFI.
Richard, N7NT.
Ron, WA0KDS.
Mike, N7MW.
Bob, K7BHM.
Lee, KY7 Mike.
Larry, WO7R.
Jim, KC1BP.
Craig, KG7AZ.
Gary, KC7CS.
We'll have everybody online. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
John, K7WP.
Paul, N3PS.
Steve,
N7WS.
Steve, AA3AE.
Jim, N7US. Good evening.
Mike, KC7B.
John, K6MM.
I may have doubled. This is N7 Whiskey Sugar.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you. I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
It's Warren, Kilo Charlie 0 Golf Uniform.
Okay, that would be Walt's guest. Welcome. We appreciate you being here and hope you enjoy the meeting. One of the unfortunate things that we get to do periodically is Tom NQ7R passed away early the morning of June 10th of this year. So if everyone would stand for a moment of silence in remember of him, we should do that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Please be seated, everybody. Moving on to the program. John Miller, K6MM, is going to be doing a presentation on DXpeditions Redefined, which is working with the R.I.B remotely. And John was first licensed in 1958 in Syracuse, New York, and upgraded to general in 59. He's had a number of call signs in the intervening years. He enjoys DXing, rag chewing, antenna design, and all aspects of contesting. He also designs amateur radio websites as another hobby. And if you go to his qrz.com page, which is very fascinating, he's got a bunch of links to numerous DXpeditions that he's done website design for. And John, it's a great privilege to have your presentation here for tonight's meeting. So we are going to turn it over to you.
How does this look? So far, so good.
Yep, looks good. Thank you.
It was great just listening to the call signs during your roll call because I recognize many of them. I think seeing you guys in Visalia from time to time. It's nice to know you're still here and having fun, and I hope beating the heat. It's a cool 81 here in San Jose. I noticed that you're still in triple digits there. It's been hell of a summer so far. Thanks for inviting me to talk with you about this interesting topic. The RIB has been around for a while. I'm not sure how much you know about it. I suspect you know a lot since AA7A has been heavily involved in it, but I wasn't really sure who was going to be here tonight. So I'm going to just do kind of a quick overview, kind of the birth of the RIB, and then take it on to my own experience operating remotely. Remember the movie Field of Dreams? It kind of tells the story here in a nutshell. The guy that really put his head to the paper on this is George Wallner. I've been on 2D expeditions with him. One was at Baker, and on the way, we spent a lot of time making sure that Baker worked, but there's a lot of work to do that, including packing up all the things that you see here, taking a longboat ride. The highlight of getting there was actually finding a place to dig a latrine, if you can imagine. That was a requirement from Fish and Wildlife. A lot of work to get on the island. We had a great time operating, and then a lot of work to pack up and leave. And on the way back, we had a lot of conversations about our experience. And I remember, George, this is a photo I took of George. He looked and he was telling several of us, I think there's a better way to do this. And the reason that he thinks this way is because he's really kind of a pioneer in many ways. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He has about 20 patents. He's thinking ahead, one step ahead of most of us. He's a real kind of Renaissance man in a lot of ways. And his vision, fairly simply, was we got to be able to find a way to put a radio in a box and put it on the island. And his concept straight away was, let's just see if we can build a complete, fully wired station in a weather-tight, temperature-controlled box. It's called the RIB, and we'll put that RIB with some generators and antennas on an island, and then we'll connect to it remotely. Let's see, I think I'm going to turn off my video just to save some bandwidth. And then the operators will work from the boat. We'll go over there once in a while to top off the generators and make inspections and so forth. And this way, it's going to be a minimum impact on the island. And we can set up fast, tear down fast, and spend most of our time making QSOs. The concept is fairly simple. Set up the RIB with generators, some antennas, set up a stable 900 megahertz wireless link to the boat. And the guys on the boat then operate and just do maintenance on the island when necessary. George is on the board along with Lee. Hi, Lee. Nice to see you tonight. And along with Ned, AA7A, two guys that you're very familiar with. And so he put a comprehensive proposal together for us to consider, since the mission of the foundation is to, as you see at the top, not only provide funding, but also to support advances in the expedition skills and technology infrastructure. And so this kind of fell into that category. So he put together an outstanding proposal back in September of 2020, and we approved it, decided to fund this adventure. You probably have seen the RIB in one form or another. Not going to go into a lot of detail on that. This is one of many block diagrams that tries to explain in English what this is all about. That's very complicated. But in the end, the box looks like this. We actually had one on display in Visalia a couple meetings ago. Made some QSOs actually from the RIB. But it's basically set up with a flex SDR, the 6700, along with all the other things that you see there. And it's in a watertight container. It's actually water cooled. It's actually a brilliant design. And so to test this concept, starting in 2020, after the proposal was approved, George and his very talented sidekick, Mike, KN4EEI, is just a multi-talented individual that's been partnering with him to create the first ribs. They decided to test this concept in the Bahamas by operating off and on for about a year and a half. Since George lives in Miami, it's fairly easy for him to get to the Bahamas. It was an ideal place to test this concept, to pitch antennas, and to see if it's going to work. This is a photo of George and Mike, and in the background you can see one of George's fine yacht called the Electra. The rib was set up with a Flex Series SDR. They were connected together by Ethernet cables into a single network, and then the communication was done with a 900 megahertz data bridge from the rib directly to the boat. And on the boat, you access the rib using Flex Radios, Maestros, and laptop running various software and so forth, and a lot of different vertical antennas. And he tried a lot of different ones. So this went on off and on for a couple of years. This is a couple photos of the rib in operation there, and also the Honda generators on the island. As a result, he actually scored very highly in some of the contests. I don't think that was the plan to start with, but it turned out that he did really well with the group that he had there and equipment. It all worked, and he came in #1 in the Bahamas for CQ Worldwide DX. CW was #3 in North America, 9 in the world. And you can see some of the other certificates there using the call sign Charlie 6 Alpha Golf uniform. I'm sure you've worked him on one or more bands in some of these contests. And what they did was really focus on how quickly they could set up and tear down. They kept very good records of what their maintenance visits needed, what that was about. And they also spent a lot of time testing new antennas and trying to optimize the data link to make sure that it was stable, and did some other things. Basically, all the things that a real DXpedition would have to deal with in the real world. So that was very encouraging, and he kept in touch and gave us constant progress reports on his success. We were very excited about it, and we knew that he really was onto something. Feedback was good. And so his next suggestion was, I think what I'd like to do is try to get permission to operate from some semi-rare locations. These would be places that would be fairly easy to get a license to operate, but also at the same time, try to test the remote access capability. The concept being that not only would the crew that's on the boat be able to access the ribs from the boat, but then maybe there were some people in other parts of the world back home who could access the ribs using a Starlink connection through the boat over to the ribs. So it's a novel concept, had not been tried before, but on paper, it sure made sense if we could do it. You could ask the question, why should we bother using remote operators? What do we need remote operators for? Well, you can kind of read this. It really opens up the expeditions to international remote teams, because you can, in theory, operate the ribs if they're up and running 24 hours a day, because you can always find somebody who's awake somewhere. And a band is always going to be open somewhere to the world from the Pacific, South Pacific. The software applications that are required are not complicated. The big benefit, of course, if you simply could add to the valid QSO totals, increase the QSO count. The object of any expedition is to build as many all-time new ones as possible to hand out QSOs to people who've never worked that entity before. So the probability of doing that is a lot higher if you have more operators to rely on. You just need a good internet connection at home, and hopefully, using Starlink on the boat. So that was the idea. And his travel plan that he put together to visit these semi-rare locations really took place from March through September of last year. And this was his plan. He said, I'm gonna sail out there to the Marquesas and then go to French Polynesia, then Ducie, and then Cook. Now, the problem is that the boat that we all loved, and he brought this boat to Navassa and was a fantastic contribution where he anchored off the coast of Navassa down in the Caribbean. And we used that boat to bring gasoline and supplies up to the top of the Navassa, because the only way you can get there is with a helicopter. That boat served a great purpose, but to do what he was planning to do out in the Pacific, you needed something that was a little bigger. You needed more speed, capacity, and so forth. Well, this is a dream that George had for many years. So, of course, he knew that he was going to have to upgrade, and this is what he upgraded to. You may have heard of the Magnet. It's a boat that he designed, and very carefully considering the idea of using this primarily to go to rare places. It needed to have the horsepower and the capacity to do this. So this is kind of the first DXpedition catamaran that if you haven't seen it before. It's really an amazing machine. I haven't been there myself. I've seen a lot of photos and videos. It's 158 feet long. It has twin 2,600 horsepower diesel engines. It holds 29,000 gallons of fuel. It has a range of 11,000 miles, and on and on. This is the cockpit of the Magnet. This is just all the technology that goes into making sure you know exactly what's going on every corner of this catamaran and out in the ocean as well. It's a fantastic sight to see this. A couple other photos of the Magnet. Two things that are really important and come into play is this 1.5 ton crane can be used to move heavy objects around, and then also this 5,000 pound submersible platform, which I'll show you how that comes in handy in a minute. Don't have a lot of photos inside. There is this one in the middle deck that shows kind of the kitchen and living area, so you can get some sense of the height of the ceilings and how big this is. It's pretty magnificent. Before dropping off ribs on an island, you have to make sure that they're all pre-tested. So there's a huge protocol that the team goes through to make sure that every rib works. There's a lot of testing that goes on, and here's where your IT background comes in handy. And yes, you need to have some technology smarts to troubleshoot when things aren't going right. But they've done this so many times now, they can pinpoint problems very quickly and solve them. And what they've been doing in the past to get stuff on the island is to deploy using a traditional tender or dinghy. You just load up everything, take it over to the island, then unload everything off, set everything up, and then come back later when you want to tear everything down. For the South Pacific, with calmer seas, anticipating some calm seas in some of these islands, they decided to go ahead and put together, they actually designed and built this 6-wheel pontoon boat. It's pretty amazing to see this in action, that it can handle and can hold 2 ribs, each of which has 2 or more radios. One will have an amplifier, and it will hold all the generators. You can see the fuel tanks there, and of course the antennas and a variety of tools. So you pack this thing up, and then using that 5,000 pound submersible platform, you drop the platform down, and then off goes the pontoon boat, and you wheel that thing up on the beach, and there you are. You have now put 2 or more stations on the beach, along with all the fuel and generators that you need to get going. That's the concept behind this, and it's worked really well in places where, again, you have easy access to an island with calm seas. So, and the antennas that are typically used, and he's still using today, are these these are vertical antennas that have base mounted auto tuners. Some are produced by N6BT, you may know of these, and these vertical antennas near saltwater work wonders, as you know. So that's those are his go-to antennas, but also George is an antenna guy, and he's constantly experimenting with different ways, especially on top band, which is his favorite band, to put out a stronger signal. That's a nice thing about being an experimenter. These are a couple photos of these vertical antennas with the base mounted tuners. Just work very well in all the places he's gone. All right, so in March of last year, 15th through the 20th, he set out to Marquesas. Set sail from Hawaii, actually. And this is a shot of him pulling into the Marquesas. And then there's the pontoon boat loaded with all the equipment on the island, and went back to the boat to operate. And this was just the first time that they had actually used a rib on the beach, you know, in a not in the Bahamas, but it's the first time that a rib was used in what you could call an actual DXpedition. There were no remote operators. They just operated themselves to test band conditions and to test the antenna and to make sure everything was working properly. And they did okay. That was in March. And now a month later, they set their next destination, rather, a month later, was the French Polynesia. And specifically the Tikahau Atoll. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but on April 10th, that's where they wound up. And this is a magnificent photo. It's a fantastic photo. If you think about it, this is the atoll. On the atoll, you can see the pontoon boat, the vertical antennas, but off in the distance in the back is the magnet. It's kind of a breathtaking photo when you think about it. The guys are on the boat actually operating the rib on this atoll. And of course, they were lucky to have calm waters and good weather. Here's a close-up of George and Mike. And by the way, Mike is an outstanding drone pilot. He has several quadcopters that he brings with him, and that's how he gets these photos. He's done some amazing videos with his quadcopter collection. So that's French Polynesia. And this is the results. There were, at this time, just 5 people invited to be a remote op and to log on to these ribs. Myself, Don Greenbaum, Ned, Ross Ford, and Tom Burson. I can't remember, Lee, if you were involved in this. I don't remember if you were, but yeah, we all got on the computer. We used fairly straightforward software using AnyDesk, and we're able to log in and operate the rib as if we were on the boat. And we made, in 10 days, 11,000 remote contacts. Most, if not all, the CW and sideband cases were from the boat. And again, this is sort of a cautious next step. We're taking baby steps here, but I think everybody was pleased we could do this. There were some technical hiccups, but both George and Mike solved them as we went along. So it was considered to be a really good next step. And because of that, George filled up the magnet with 29,000 gallons of fuel, however many he needed to. And the first major DXpedition using remote operators was on Ducey Island. I had the call wrong. It's actually VP6A. Or VP6D. I'm sorry. I have the call right and wrong. VP6D. And that was in June of last year, about a year ago. And for that particular trip, we amassed a group of 34 remote operators. The guys in red are from outside the United States. So you can look at the call signs and say, okay, we've got Europe covered, we've got Japan covered, we've got Australia covered. James Brooks was on the team from Singapore. So this is a pretty good group. And we, of course, had a group sign-up sheet. And you can see Lee's call sign on here, KY7M. So we got on, signed up for our time slots and got on the air using AnyDesk as our remote desktop access. The CW guys use Sonobus to get CW audio and a side tone. The rest of the apps are all, they're free and cross-platform. And then on the boat, they used N1MM for logging and CW on WSJT, of course. And we accessed then and I'm going to show you some screenshots of what we saw at home. And then, of course, there's the RIB. This is kind of a split diagram showing how this whole thing worked. On the left side is the boat, and the remote ops come in through Starlink, and Starlink connects to this 900 megahertz link over to specific RIBs that are designated for the remote ops. There were some for the remote ops operating FT8, and then one for remote CW. And then the local guys, of course, have their own set of RIBs on the island that they access. So, and there's the antennas that you can see to the right. On the left, you can see some of the smart SDR, WSJTX. This is software that we're using. Nothing magical about it, and it all just seemed to work very well together. This is another amazing shot. Again, kudos to Mike and his quadcopter for this shot. This is up, I don't know, 300 or 400 feet, looking down on Ducey Island, and there's the magnet sitting there. This is not a shot that you get to see every day. It's pretty amazing. This is what VP6A, this is what Ducey looks like. And there's the little pontoon boat up on the island. The guys got it up there and got everything set up. How nice it is to have a self-contained stations like this where you're not messing up the footprint. There may be birds, there may be turtles, there may be whatever, but you're not going to crush stuff. You're not going to cause a major environmental catastrophe with this setup if you're careful. Here are the results. In the time we were there, or they were there, and we worked together as a team, we made 61,850 contacts. Well, using all three modes. And I think probably the most amazing thing is that 87% of the contacts were from the remote ops, 53,885 contacts. And we didn't know what to expect. We just got on the air as a team and just operated and operated and operated. And of course, the guys on the boat, of course, were doing maintenance as well. So then, in fairness, they didn't have a chance to operate as much as they might have otherwise, because they were, making sure we were okay and fixing technical problems from time to time. But the initial setup took 3 hours. That's nothing. That's nothing. 3 hours from there to get on the air from landing. It took an hour and a half, a little over, almost 2 hours to disassemble, everything off the air. We were on the air for 13 of the 14 days, which is another benefit of doing this, because you don't waste a lot of time bringing all the infrastructure that you need for a traditional tent and generator DXpedition. And so it worked really well. We're very happy with that. And George actually wrote something up, wrote a note about this and put it in QST in September 2023 for this trip. Next on the agenda was, and this is a couple months later, was to go to North Cook Island. Call sign was obtained with Echo 51 Delta. This is basically the second major DXpedition using remote operators. And this is what it looked like. It was the Penryn Atoll. And they rolled up on that. Again, calm seas helped a lot. Put up the antennas far enough apart that they had the luxury of being able to spread the antennas out. And again, that's Mike, the wizard. Now, to show you what life's like on the magnet, that's one of the crew members that was on, or one of the operators rather, that was on the magnet. That's Tommy, HA7RY. I love Tommy. And on his left is the Maestro and laptop, and that's his world to reach the ribs from the boat that are assigned to the boat. To the right are the laptops that were assigned to the remote ops. So when I got online using AnyDesk, I actually was looking at either one of those two laptops in real time. So I could see exactly what he was looking at, And just as important, he could see exactly what I was doing. So I had full access to those laptops, and having full access to those laptops meant I had full access to the ribs. Here's a snapshot of the screen that I took at home. I'm operating as a Fox, and of course, we were in Foxhound mode. What you see here is the full desktop on my screen, and just to look at the different parts of this, verifying that I was in Fox mode, that the flex radio interface, so we could monitor power output, SWR, and a few other things. Then N1MM, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. The WSJTX software, which is broken down, is now this is a view from the Fox that you may or may not have seen if you've never been a Fox before, but this is what it looks like. On the left is a decodes window. And if people are calling above 1,000 because you're in Foxhound mode, those call signs will trickle in at various rates. And when you see those, you can either double click on a call sign, or even easier, if you put your mouse over there, you can hit the enter key and the call signs will be transferred down to the queue. Once they're in the queue, they're on a conveyor belt that basically goes, the software then accesses these, and puts them out and it sends a signal report. And the number of call signs in this particular case for the regular Fox mode, I had 2 slots going, as you'll see where it says N slots 2. That means I could push 2 at a time out there. And depending on conditions, you can change that number from 2 to 3 to 4. You give up some power when you do that. But that's how this works. And so then if someone, if there's a QSO exchange and you're calling in and you actually, if we complete the exchange, you'll get an RR73. And of course, your call sign immediately goes in the N1MM log. One interesting thing about this software is that you can arrange to have the call signs come in. You can prioritize based on a couple of parameters. One, you can check a box that says, I want to see just the strongest signals. So high to low on the signal to noise. That's one way to do it. But you can also change that bar, that drop-down menu. You can change it to distance if you want to see who's the furthest away, or you can actually change it by call sign, alphabetically by call sign, to see who's coming in from where. So a number of different ways to watch the queue fill up or watch the call signs being decoded. Very simple FT8 QSO operating as a Fox, and this happened. I just did some screen snapshots. It was a slow day. This day, W3D of DVY came in. I clicked on him. He went into the queue. The next step, he goes over to the progress window, and you can watch the exchange. As soon as you see the RR73, his call sign pops up in N1MM. This is making a QSO using as a Fox in the Foxhound mode, as you're the Fox and the other guy is the Hound. Now, where you get really excited about this is when conditions are right and the pileup is big, and you're able to knock off several RR73s at a time. This screen shows, may not be able to see it, but there are four QSOs, 4 RR73s down here that went in the log, and that just boosts your rate. And when you run it Fox with more streams, you give up some power. So conditions have to be really good for you to get away with that for a long time. Otherwise, you wind up dropping the slots down to 1 or 2. It's slow down. But there are some times where you can get away with 5 or 6 slots. You may have seen that yourself if you're an FT8 operator and you got online and you could see that the DXpedition was working 3, 4, 5 guys at a time. FT8 is a really good QSO generator. And so I'll talk a little bit about that because I was on the team that went to Baker, and Baker was the first DXpedition where we stopped using RIDI and switched over. I was in a digital shack with a couple guys, and I was on RIDI. The guy next to me was on FT8. I was making about 40 QSOs an hour, and he was making about 200. So we looked at each other and said, what's wrong with this picture? And we shut down RIDI, and we spent the rest of the time operating digital exclusively FT8. It was the first time a DXpedition generated, 24% of the QSOs, digital QSOs, as FT8, or 24% of the QSOs as digital QSOs, I should say. Prior to that, you can see the percentages were all less than 10%, and they were all RIDI. Now, I've tracked almost every DXpedition since. The last one I put up here is TX5S from Clipperton. You guys probably worked. That was a fantastic DXpedition that took place in January. Notice, if you could read it, they made 50.9% of their QSOs were digital. And so if you average those percentages, the FT8 QSOs of all these DXpeditions for the last 6 years, almost 50% of their QSOs are digital, and they're all FT8 QSOs, not RIDI. I love RIDI, but it's not the mode of choice if you're on a DXpedition. It's just too slow. So FTA is really found its place, and so these are summary of why bother with FT8. Well, you can kind of read this. You still get credit for digital QSO toward it. It's a great for 6 meters and 160. It's also been attracting new operators in, maybe revitalizing some older ones. Usually DQRM is not a problem. It's hard to interfere with an FT8 QSO, although it can be done and has been done. It's certainly less stressful for the DXpedition operator, and the numbers speak for themselves. So it's just become, I think, a permanent part of everybody's DXpedition planning now. If you're going to go to a rare location for X days, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 days, you want to get the most out of the trip, and you want to get the most out of you're operating in digital mode. That's where FT8 comes in, and it has tremendous remote operation possibilities. So this is the breakdown from the trip to North Cook. Made 57,000 contacts. Of that, 63% of the contacts were made by 40 remote ops. And in this case, there were 5 ops from the boat on that trip. And so they contributed a lot more to the total. It's a very successful trip. We operated 13. Oh, sorry, those those numbers are not right. I think that I don't remember. It's on because I've got Ducey up here. It should really say North Cook. And I think it was 11 of the 12 days. The rest is right. So that's the RIB. Now I'll segue for a minute to the mini RIB. I don't know if you know about this, but thinking ahead, there are guys always thinking ahead of what else can we do with this technology. The big RIB works, but you got what you need to do to get the RIB on the island. But what happens if you got a smaller focused DXpedition to maybe to a little less rare place? Well, the mini RIB can solve that problem. This concept here is to offer a lightweight, lower cost alternative to the big RIB DXpeditions. And so Greg, 96IZT, and his team decided to pack a K3 and power supply and a router in an R.I.B, Raspberry Pi computer in this box, and decided that this would work if you would want to take something on the plane with you. You just put it in a suitcase basically and carry it on, and then maybe use that to operate, to have some remote operators operate it. And actually this happened. I don't know if you remember the Charlie Bravo 0 Zulu Alpha DXpedition down to Juan Fernandez, but this is the first time this was used. And this is basically the block diagram of the mini RIB. As I said, a K3 and a PC, Raspberry Pi, and an Ethernet switch. It's not in a fan. Not much to it. There it is. So first time it was used on the Juan Fernandez DXpedition in February. That was the call sign it was used. There were 3 call signs on this trip. Charlie Bravo 0 Zulu Alpha was one of them. Zulu Echo Whiskey was the one that was used for the remote guys. And the person who took that down there was Hal, W8 Hotel Charlie. He took it on the plane with him, and they got there, unpacked it. They found, they slapped together a helically wound PVC pipe to start with. brought it up on top of the hill, put it in a tent. There's the whole station basically. And I got on and was one of a number of operators remotely that operated. And this is what I saw from home. I was able to access using AnyDesk 2 different windows. The first one showed Win for K3 Suite, which is what they use to control the K3. You could see the specialized software that they put together to control the next gen RIB or the mini RIB. And one of them, of course, is the logger of choice. And on the second window, of course, is where the action was. That's at WSJTX. And so I was able to just use WSJTX remotely to access the little mini RIB. The time we were there, I think there were a number of us that operated off and on. We had a sign-up sheet. And we made about, 6,750 QSOs in the time that they were there, using the K3 100 watts and that helically wound vertical, which is not a great antenna. The main team that was there made about 30,000 contacts using K3 and a KPA 500 antenna plus good antennas. So we supplemented their effort using this little mini RIB, proved that you could, carry it on the plane and go set it up with an antenna and supplement the expedition. So you may be seeing that in the future. So I'll pause for a minute to ask you guys to raise your hand if you worked any of these three. Did you work North Cook? Did you work Ducey? Did you work the Juan Fernandez guys? Yes? It's kind of hard. Well, this is a trick question. You don't really have to do this because I already know that you did. I went to your website and I took your roster and I looked all your call signs up for all three of these DXpeditions, and I put this chart together so you can see at least those are the numbers that I put together for the three DXpeditions, A51A, VP6A, and Charlie Bravo Zero. So it was amazing is that it looks like 66 of the club members got on to work at least one QSO with these guys, 66. And the total number of QSOs, if I add them all up for these three DXpeditions, was 636U. Central Arizona was out in force. Of course, on a situation like this, there are always some guys that get really excited about getting on the air. And those are the ones that I like to personally welcome into the DX Hogs of Fame, Just kidding. We love the QSOs. Thank you for doing this. Okay, so the lessons learned so far for this combination of a RIB and a remote op, it's a good combination. It lowers the overall cost of the expeditions. You can read some of this. You certainly don't have the complex life support systems that you need for a typical tent and generator, the expedition. You don't need a lot of people. Smaller teams work. The main thing here is to just create as minimal environmental impact with the smallest footprint as possible. In addition, this is a way to set up faster, tear down faster, and spend more time on the air, putting QSOs in the log. And likely, and it's true, it's happening already, I think, that the expeditions of the future are likely going to be using something like a RIB to help in some areas. Some of the adventure going to the island may be lost, but you're still going to make contacts. The ultimate goal, of course, is to make it easier for the expedition leaders to get permission to safely operate from those environmentally sensitive areas where access is limited, and access is usually limited by fish and wildlife. If you take a look at the top 25 on Club Log, you find out that of the 25, 22 of the 25 are islands or atolls or rocks or reefs. The only three countries are North Korea, Turkmenistan, and Syria. Everything else is an island, and it's not easy to get permission to go to these places as you do. And even if you do, it doesn't mean you're going to get there. Let's all witness Bouvet. It's not an easy place to access. Mother Nature usually wins. 5 of the 25 are protected U.S. possessions: Curie, Johnston, Midway, Desecheo, Palmyra, and Jarvis. So this technology, is perfectly suited to to go to these places if you can get permission to go. And one of the places that everybody had on their list to try to get permission to go to was Jarvis. I was on the team that went to Palmyra several years ago. It's wonderful. We had a wonderful time and did really well, but it's still high. It's still 18 on the list. And I think it's been 15 to 20 years since anybody actually got permission to go to Jarvis. When all of a sudden we found, and in early March of this year, the Dateline DX Association, powered by George, A7JV, and Don, and who had been working basically their butts off for years to try to get a permission to go. It was the last time it was on the air was 1990. Yep. They worked very hard, and they actually, after demonstrating the success of the R.I.B with remote operators from the locations that I just showed you, they got permit to go to Jarvis. And we're told you can take 4 operators. I think they actually upped that to 5. So there's 5 operators there. And you can put 6 stations on the island, and you could read the rest. They're going to have, the team will be augmented by remote operators from all over the place, all over the world. But the key is that they had to be accompanied by a team of U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologists. Of course, they have to go to Jarvis anyway. So this was kind of a win-win. We'll give you permission to go, but we're going to go with you. We want to make sure that this is done right. And I believe that the U.S. and Fish and Wildlife guys just got on the catamaran yesterday in American Samoa. This was the public announcement, press release that they put out. Now, never resting on his laurels, Joe Taylor, and I have to give a lot of credit to Ned because he worked with Joe Taylor's team as a DXpedition consultant to help build the next generation of WSJTX, which has been announced. It's been out, and you probably heard about it. Maybe you've used it. SuperFox version 2.7.0 is what we're talking about. This version of WSJTX it allows expedition operators to make QSO rates much higher than possible, because instead of just sending current streams of up to 5 FT8 signals, the SuperFox station transmits a constant envelope from 750 to 2262. And that's like a 1512 hertz wide wave or signal coverage. And so the SuperFox station can convey signal reports to as many as 9 different hounds. And it's automatic. You don't have to worry about choosing anything. The software is good enough at just decoding and pushing this stuff out at the maximum rates. And you don't pay any, this is the key to it, you don't pay any penalty for signal strength by transmitting the maximum number of hounds. You won't wind up seeing a real gain over the multi-streaming FT8 with 5 streams. Yeah, in SuperFox mode, transmissions are automatic on the 003 on the even side of the cycle. You don't have to even worry about that when you set up. That you're going to be transmitting on the other side. Hounds are not forced. In contrast to Foxhound, you don't have to transmit above 1,000. You can transmit your signal anywhere from 200 to 5,000. And I proved that myself by even working myself from home, calling at different frequencies down below 500. And so that works. And your signal, your frequency that you call in on is not shifted at all. The entire QSO is conducted at your original calling frequency. One of the wonderful things about this, it has an anti-piracy feature, which I'll mention a little bit more about, and to cut down on deliberate QRMing. This is what it sounds like. I just realized you may not have heard that because I didn't click a button that I needed to, but it's okay. It's got a very distinctive waveform and wave pattern. If you want to work Jarvis and you might know this already, you have to use this software and you have to be in superhound mode. So you need to get WSJTX version 2.7.0 RC6 or later. If you don't know what version of software you have right now, just bring it up on your screen and then click on the help menu down below there about WSJTX, and your screen will pop up showing you the exact version that you have now. So if it's not that, you need to upgrade to that, and you just go Google it. You'll find it. It's on down. I think you can download it from SourceForge rather. And when you get it and load it on your PC or laptop or whatever version you're going to be using, you have to turn on superhound mode. And it's very easy to do that. You go under File and Settings, and then on the Advanced tab, click on that. You check this box, Special Operating, you check Hound, and you check Super Fox mode. If you don't check Super Fox mode, you'll be in normal Hound mode like you've always been in the past. But if you want to be in Super Fox mode, you got to check that box. And then when you click OK, you'll go back to your screen, your home screen, and you'll know you're in Superhound mode because you see that rectangular label that says Superhound. And just to show the other side of it, if you're a Super Fox operator, you get there the same way. On the Advanced tab, click this, you click Super Fox, but the difference is in order to be a Super Fox operator, you need to have a secret key, and that'll be issued to you by NCDXF, who's going to be has volunteered to, offer these keys to people who are going out on DXpeditions. So, so that you keep the quality that you need and the control of these keys for Super Fox. Super Fox view, when you go back to the home screen, it says Super Fox right there, just like it said Superhound. But the difference is the screen on the right, the part of the screen on the right, there's no stream selector, where in the past you could pick 3, 4, 5 streams and send those out. You don't need to worry about that. It's all built in as part of the software. And the other thing that's interesting is you'll notice that it says free text over here. You can actually click that and send a free text message as part of an exchange. That's handy, especially if you're going to tell people that you're going to change bands or you want to send a special message as an operator, in real time. Now, to test Super Fox, a group of us volunteered to put it through its paces, and George said, "I'm going to be going to American Samoa, which is where this is the jump off point to go to Jarvis." He's for 2 reasons. One, he wanted to test this software, but that's also where the Fish and Wildlife guys showed up yesterday. They came in from Honolulu, and the plan altogether was depart from American Samoa to go to Jarvis. So for the last, 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks, a fairly large group of folks have been testing this. And these are some shots from American Samoa where the guys set up the antennas, set up everything. And then we, first of all, at home, I just got on in Superhound mode so I could actually listen to the operators on the boat operating and calling CQ. And this is how I saw the screen decoding K8R. K8R was the call sign used for American Samoa. Some of you may have worked K8R. And so the SuperVox decoder, and this is the key to this, it tests the digital signal included in each message. And if it's valid, then the transmission is going to be marked verified, as you see. So what that means is that you can be sure that when you see that verified, that the operator is not a pirate. It's the real deal. And so when they go on the air with N5J, you're going to see not K8R over there. You're going to see N5J verified. The secret key that I mentioned before is used to create this digital signature as part of the SuperFox message, and it's used at the receiving end to establish legitimacy. What's the goal? It's to eliminate, especially eliminate deliberate QRM. So that seems to be working really well right now, and you can see it during the exchanges. And, it wasn't perfect. That was the purpose of testing this for 2.5 weeks. There were some bugs in the software, as there always is, as there always are. And we were able to work by capturing some of the WAV files and sending them into Joe Taylor and his team. They were able to tweak this and make sure that, the bugs are out of it. This is a screenshot that I took when I was on the air from home. And you can see this is basically operating as a Super Fox. And it's very similar to Foxhound, but the difference is that everything that comes into the queue and then pushed over to progress is pushed out in larger chunks. It's typically 6, anywhere from 5 to 7 at a time, and it's really amazing to see what the high level of confirmation rates are in real time when things are going well. This RR73s that just come in, and you can see that the rates start to go up. And again, here, it's just another shot. I actually worked myself from home. So, I called in on, I think I was on 200. Anyway, I worked myself, and that was just, to test the system. And it's one of the advantages you have as a remote op. You can actually work yourself from home if conditions are right. So what the pileup looks like from American Samoa was amazing, because that's not that rare, but there are a lot of people that still wanted to get on to help. And there's always somebody that's interested in, operating, getting American Samoa on 12 meters or 17 or 30 or whatever. The rates, and this is CT1BOH, and it's hard to read this, but he had a rate, a 10 QSO rate of 521, 571, if you expand it out. So that when the pilot's good, and the software is working good, these QSOs just fly through. You can just see the number of RR73s on his screen. And I had the similar experience as well. And I do, and all the guys on remote try to do screen snapshots to show what's going on in real time that we can use later. So this brings us to today. The N5J team is, if you've gone to their website, there it is, Jarvis Land 2024. They're on the boat. And Don and Greenbaum had a team call yesterday to talk about everything. They've got some weather issues, so they're being cautious about when they're leaving. But they may be en route right now. I don't really know, but it's imminent. And the dates you can see that they published to be on the air, the 7th through the 19th. So it's coming up soon. These are the guys on the boat: George, Don, Tomas, Mike, and then Adrian's on the boat. He's the number 5 operator, KO8 SCA, just a really multi-talented guy, not only technologist, but a good operator. And then we have 2 different remote teams. We have a CW team, and we have a FT8 Super Fox team, about 20 or 25 of each. And we have separate sign-up sheets. So we're going to sign up to operate at certain time slots and certain bands as this thing gets going. That's our commitment. They've published this band plan, and they'll probably stick to it unless there's another major DXpedition that gets in their way and they would have to shift frequencies. But you can go to the website and you can download this band plan to have it handy if you want to get set up ahead of time with their frequencies. This is their plan for the RIB layout. Everything is decided in advance and tested in advance, so they know that this particular configuration will work really well. The key, and including these antennas, which are on board and have proven themselves to be super performers. But the key to this whole thing, when they get there, remember, Fish and Wildlife is coming, and they're the ones that are going to determine exactly where the N5J team is going to be able to land and where they're going to be able to set up. So this station and this antenna layout will be finalized after they have a chance to agree on where to go, what to do. That happened to us on Baker when we got there. We were supposed to be on the beach, but we couldn't because the tide came in too much. So they Fish and Wildlife moved us up and marked off spots where we could put up the tents to operate. So in this case, they'll just have to find really good places where the antennas can go and where the pontoon boat can come in and sit. That's going to be safe for everybody. I don't think that's going to be a major problem. So here's where they are. They're in American Samoa, and they may be on their way. And this is Jarvis. You can see that it's not that far from Palmyra. And that's the exciting part of this trip, is waiting for them to land and waiting for us to get on the air. So maybe just I can summarize my experience contrasting being on an island operator versus doing this remotely. There's nothing that can take the place of a real DXpedition where you're actually getting on a plane and going someplace, because you're going to enjoy the whole experience. You're going to see things that you've never seen before. You're going to build camaraderie with people that you didn't know very well, but you will come back as best friends. You will have fun working huge pileups. You're going to learn about yourself, a lot about yourself. Obviously going to come home with some great memories. And I've been lucky to be able to go to some of these places. It does cost some money, and it's time away from home. That's the disadvantage. You've got to have a time that you can devote to it. And every operator is going to pitch anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to go on one of these trips, depending on how rare it is and what kind of a boat or airplane you need to get there. But if you can't go on one of these trips for whatever reason, the next best thing might be for you to be a DXpedition remote operator. You can really feel included as part of the entire team. You definitely can make a significant QSO contribution. You definitely can experience working on large pileups, and I've done a little CW, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more on this trip if there's time. But we've got some great CW operators that know how to handle these large pileups, and also we also use sideband. So all three modes are going to be, you theoretically as a remote operator, you can experience all three modes, and experience these large pilots as if you were on the island. You're going to constantly learn about some of the new technology. We're always learning about the software applications and how to do things better. And then you'll be able to, we use Slack and Skype and, social media, but mostly Slack and Skype to keep in touch with each other about what's going on in real time. You can choose your own time slots to operate. It doesn't, you're staying home, so you avoid significant costs. So you don't have to travel anywhere. You can use your own shack, make it as comfortable, upgrade it to whatever the latest computer and software is that you want for your convenience. You don't have to worry about uncomfortable climate, and you don't have to put a latrine in like we did on Baker. You can stay alert. You won't be too sleep deprived. And yeah, you can keep your family harmony too. It's a real, kind of a win-win. So back to the field of dreams, build it and they will come. Sometimes they do come true. So I had to put George's hat here on this because he set the stage for what I think is just revolutionizing the way we're thinking about these DXpeditions. So from the magnet, they're heading off to Jarvis, hopefully. And hopefully we'll hear from them soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it. That's a lot of information, a lot of detail. We enjoyed it, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Miller? Lee's got a question.
Just a comment about operating CW, which I will be doing. I just decided I needed to show my true colors and not operate as much or any FT8 on this one, but to focus on CW. And we're using, with the help of Jerry, whose call I'm forgetting at the moment, who's the expert on
W1VE.
W1VE. Jerry is the guru. Using a program called Mumble servers. He set up a network around the world with I don't know, about 7 or 8 or 10 locations where going through Mumble, you can utilize it for the CW application. And the challenge with the flex radios and operating is to go split. And so on CW, you've got 2 slices. One is your transmit frequency. It's like being split. So one slice is the transmit frequency. The other is the receive frequency. And you use the mouse wheel to tune the receive frequency. So it's a little bit challenging, but you get the hang of it. I've done it a few times now, and looking forward to operating the pileups. But Jerry's really made a big difference in the ability of the CW operators to work their magic and run pileups. So looking forward to Jarvis, and hopefully we'll work a bunch of the club members.
Thank you, Lee. Anybody else?
Questions?
Comments, observations? Okay, John, I think that wraps it up. You can stick around for the business meeting here after the break. It's a little bit boring and kind of long, but if you want to hang out and see what we do in the shadows, you can certainly do that, sir.
Thanks. I think I'll go and grab a bite to eat.
Okay, thanks, John. Again, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it very much. One thing I want to do very briefly before we go to the break is we have a kind of a unique situation this year. Evan, K6MM was awarded the ARCA 2024 New Ham of the Year Award at the Flagstaff Ham Fest last July. And so in a minute, I'm going to give him the award. So you have to stand up here and be embarrassed with me, which is okay. And briefly, Evan was initially licensed at age 11 in April of 2023 as a technician class licensee with a call of KK7MGL. In June of that year, he successfully upgraded to general class license and maintained the same call sign. In addition to in-person and hybrid participation here at our membership meetings and other events, he's also active in the broader Arizona amateur radio community. And he regularly participates along with his dad, Virgil, K7VZ, with various other ham clubs, meetings, gatherings, and activities. And he recently attended the 2023 Northern California DX convention in Visalia, where he won a ICOM 7300 and a bunch of cool stuff to go with it. Evan's proactive with on-the-air activities, including general operations and contacts and sideband and FT8. He operates in contests and other operating activities. Prior to becoming licensed, he participated in field events for a period of time from 2017 to 22. And after becoming licensed, he operated in Field Day 23 as the 2023 GOTA station with the Boy Scout Troop Post 599, W7BSA. He's guest operated with me at the Arizona QSO Party Contest in 2022. He can run sideband pretty well. And so he's an up and coming contester there. And then in 2023, he and his dad and some other folks went to La Paz County, I think it was, and did an expedition down there. He's also recently become active in the ARRL parks on the air activities, and where he and Virgil both participate as both hunters and activators. So it's for these reasons and a number of other ones that Evan was selected to receive the ARCA 2024 Young Ham of the Year Award. And here it is. Thank you, sir. We don't have to shake hands or anything like that unless you want to. Get over here, get over here. Okay.